I was getting my gear ready for a wedding shoot this Saturday when I noticed something was off. My main camera, a Canon R5 that cost me $4,000, wasn't in its usual spot in my equipment case. I checked every bag, every shelf, every possible place it could be. Nothing. This wasn't just any camera. This was my bread and butter, the tool that paid our mortgage and kept food on the table. Without it, I'd have to cancel the wedding, lose $1,500, and damage my reputation as a photographer. I was about to tear the house apart when my phone buzzed with a text from my wife. "Don't be mad. I lent your camera to my ex for his event." I stared at that message for a full minute. She took my $4,000 professional camera without asking, without even mentioning it. She just decided to hand over my livelihood to her ex-boyfriend like it was some casual favor. My first instinct was to call her immediately and lose my mind. But something made me pause. Maybe it was the way she phrased it, "Don't be mad," like she knew exactly how wrong this was. Maybe it was years of dealing with her impulsive decisions that taught me to think before reacting. I typed back, "Okay, just that, nothing else." But inside, I was calculating everything that could go wrong. That camera wasn't just expensive. It contained memory cards with other clients' photos, specialized lenses, and professional settings I'd spent months perfecting. She had no right to touch it, let alone give it away. Here's what she didn't know, though. That camera came with professional insurance through my business. Not regular homeowners insurance, but specialized equipment coverage that photographers use for gear worth thousands. And with that insurance came something very interesting: GPS tracking. Every professional photographer knows that cameras get stolen at events, weddings, concerts, corporate functions. So the insurance company requires GPS tracking on any equipment over $3,000. It was a small device, barely noticeable, that I'd attached to the camera body months ago. I pulled out my phone and opened the insurance app. There it was, a little blue dot showing exactly where my camera was located. And it wasn't at any event I'd ever heard of. The location showed a residential area about 20 minutes away. Not a venue, not a business, just some neighborhood I didn't recognize. I took a screenshot of the location and timestamp. My wife came home an hour later, acting completely normal. She kissed me hello, asked about my day, started making dinner like nothing had happened. Not a word about the camera. Not an apology for taking it without permission. Not even an explanation of when I might get it back. "So," I said casually while she chopped vegetables, "how long does your ex need the camera?" She didn't look up. "Oh, just for his event this weekend. He'll have it back to you by Monday." "What kind of event?" "Some photography thing he's doing. I don't know the details." "Photography thing." Right. Her ex wasn't a photographer. Last I heard, he was working construction and struggling to pay his bills. But sure, he suddenly needed a $4,000 camera for a photography thing. "Did you mention that it's my work camera? That I might need it?" She finally looked at me, and I caught something in her expression. Guilt, maybe, or annoyance that I was asking questions. "He really needed it, and I knew you'd say no if I asked first. It's just for the weekend." There it was. She knew I'd say no, so she just took it behind my back. No discussion, no consideration for my work, no respect for the fact that it was my property and my livelihood. "I have a wedding Saturday," I said. Her face went pale. "Oh, I forgot about that." She forgot. My wife forgot that I work weekends, that I have clients depending on me. That photography is how we pay our bills. She just forgot. "Can't you use your backup camera?" My backup camera was a decent DSLR, but nothing close to the quality clients expect when they're paying premium rates. It would work, but barely, and it would definitely impact the quality of my work. "I guess I'll have to." That night, I checked the GPS again. The camera had moved to 3 different locations throughout the day. None of them looked like event venues. One was a parking lot, another was some kind of residential complex, and the third was back to that original neighborhood. This wasn't adding up. Events don't move around like that. Professional photography jobs happen at specific locations: churches, reception halls, outdoor venues. They don't bounce between random neighborhoods and parking lots. I started thinking about her ex. What I knew about him wasn't impressive. They'd dated for 2 years before we got together, and from what I'd gathered over the years, he wasn't exactly the responsible type. Financial problems, job instability, the kind of guy who was always looking for the easy way out. And now my wife had handed him $4,000 worth of professional equipment. I could have called her out right then, could have shown her the GPS tracking, demanded an explanation, made her contact him immediately. But something told me to wait. If there was more to this story, I wanted to know what it was before I showed my hand. The wedding was in 2 days. If the camera wasn't back by Friday night, I'd have to make some difficult phone calls to my clients. But for now, I was going to watch and see exactly what her ex was doing with my equipment. Because one thing was becoming crystal clear: whatever was happening, it wasn't just a simple favor for an event. Friday morning came and went with no word about my camera. My wife left for work acting like everything was normal, even kissing me goodbye with a smile. No mention of when the camera might be returned, no updates on her ex's mysterious event. I had to call my wedding clients. "Hi, Mrs. Rodriguez. This is about tomorrow's wedding. I need to let you know there's been an equipment issue, and I'll be using backup gear. The quality will still be professional, but I wanted to give you a heads up." The conversation was awkward. These people had hired me specifically because of my portfolio, which was shot entirely with that missing camera. Now I was telling them they'd get something less than what they paid for because my wife decided to play fairy godmother to her ex-boyfriend. After the call, I checked the GPS again. The camera was now at a completely different location, some kind of commercial area across town. This was the 4th different place in 2 days. What kind of event required this much movement? When my wife came home for lunch, I decided to probe a little deeper. "Any word from your ex about when he'll be done with the camera?" She barely looked up from her sandwich. "He said he might need it through the weekend." "Might need it? I thought you said it was just for today." "Well, his event got extended or something. You know how these things go." "No, actually, I didn't know how these things go. Professional events have schedules. They don't just randomly extend for days without notice." But apparently my wife thought photography worked like some casual hobby where you just keep equipment indefinitely. "What's his number? I'll call him directly." The reaction was immediate. She looked up sharply, her whole body tensing. "Why would you do that?" "Because it's my camera, and I have a client tomorrow who's paying me good money for professional work. I'll handle it. I'll text him right now." She grabbed her phone and started typing furiously. I watched her face as she typed, and I caught something that made my stomach drop. She looked worried. Not apologetic worried, but scared worried. Like she was trying to manage a situation that was getting out of control. Her phone buzzed with a response almost immediately. She read it, and her face went even more pale. "What did he say?" He needs to keep it until Monday. His event is more complicated than he thought." More complicated? Right. I was starting to think the only thing complicated here was whatever lie they were both trying to maintain. "I need his number." "No. Really, I'll handle it. You don't need to get involved." "I don't need to get involved? With my own equipment? With my own livelihood?" That's when I knew for certain that my wife was hiding something. This wasn't about helping an ex-boyfriend with a photography event. This was about something else entirely, and she was actively working to keep me from finding out what. After she left, I sat down and really studied the GPS tracking data. I pulled up all the locations from the past 2 days and started mapping them out. The pattern was strange. The camera would stay in one place for several hours, then move to another location, stay there, then move again. It looked more like someone was taking it to different people's houses than using it for any kind of professional event. I decided to do some research. I found her ex's social media profiles, which weren't hard to locate since my wife was still friends with him on Facebook. His most recent post showed him talking about financial opportunities and making big moves soon. No mention of photography or events. But there was something else. Looking at his friend list and recent activity, I noticed he'd been interacting with people who, based on their profiles, looked like they dealt in buying and selling electronics. Lots of posts about cash for gear and quick sales. My stomach sank. That evening, my wife was acting even stranger. She kept checking her phone, responding to texts quickly, and then putting it face down like she didn't want me to see the screen. When I tried to make conversation about her day, she gave short answers and seemed distracted. "Everything okay?" "Yeah, just tired." "Heard anything more about the camera?" "He's still using it." "I told you, probably Monday." But her voice had changed. She wasn't just being evasive anymore. She was starting to sound defensive, like I was bothering her by asking about my own property. Around 9 o'clock, I checked the GPS one more time. The camera was at a new location, and this one made my blood run cold. According to the address lookup, it was near a cluster of pawn shops and used electronic stores. I took screenshots of everything. The timeline, the locations, the addresses. Whatever was happening with my camera, it wasn't what my wife had told me. And based on where it was now, I had a sick feeling I knew what her ex's event actually was. My phone was set up to receive automatic alerts from the insurance company if anything unusual happened with the tracked equipment. Things like sudden movements outside normal hours, or if the GPS signal indicated the device was in certain types of locations that were flagged as high risk for theft. As I was getting ready for bed, I made sure those alerts were turned on and the volume was up, because something told me I was going to need them very soon. My wife went to sleep that night without saying another word about the camera. She curled up on her side of the bed, facing away from me, like she was trying to avoid any more questions. But I stayed awake, watching the GPS dot on my phone, wondering what Monday would bring and whether my camera would still exist by then. Saturday morning at 6:47 a.m., my phone exploded with alerts. Equipment security alert, unauthorized sale attempt detected, insurance notification, GPS device activated emergency protocol, pawn shop verification, please confirm equipment ownership. I was wide awake instantly. My wife was still asleep next to me, completely oblivious to the fact that her ex-boyfriend had just tried to sell my camera. The insurance app showed the exact location, Easy Cash Pawn, about 15 minutes from downtown. According to the automated message, the pawn shop had called the insurance company's 24-hour hotline because their system flagged the camera's serial number when it was scanned for sale. Professional equipment insurance works differently than regular coverage. When you have gear worth thousands of dollars, the insurance companies don't mess around. They have partnerships with pawn shops, used electronics stores, and online marketplaces. If someone tries to sell tracked equipment without proper documentation, the system automatically flags it. My phone rang. Unknown number. Is this the owner of a Canon R5, serial number ending in 4847? Yes, that's my camera. This is Jake from Easy Cash Pawn. We have someone here trying to sell your equipment, but our system shows it's reported as potentially stolen. We need you to verify if this sale is authorized. It's not authorized. That camera was taken without my permission. Understood. We're going to hold the individual here and contact law enforcement. Can you come down to verify ownership? I'll be right there. I hung up and looked at my wife, still sleeping peacefully. Part of me wanted to wake her up and demand an explanation right then, but a bigger part of me wanted to see this through first. I wanted to catch her ex in the act and get the full story before she had a chance to spin it. I got dressed quietly and drove to the pawn shop. Easy Cash was one of those places that dealt with everything from jewelry to electronics to tools. The kind of establishment that asked few questions but had learned to protect themselves with proper documentation and insurance checks. Jake, the manager, was a middle-aged guy who looked like he'd seen every scam in the book. Your guy's in the back office, he said when I walked in. Brought in your camera with some story about needing quick cash for a family emergency. But when we scanned the serial number, our system lit up like Christmas. What kind of documentation did he have? That's the interesting part. He had a handwritten note saying the camera belonged to him, signed by someone claiming to be his girlfriend. But no receipt, no insurance papers, no proof of purchase. And the signature didn't match any ID he provided. Can I see the note? Jake handed me a piece of paper that made my stomach drop. It was my wife's handwriting, clear as day. The note said the camera belonged to her ex, and that she was vouching for his ownership as his girlfriend. Girlfriend, not ex-girlfriend, not former relationship, current girlfriend. The police are on their way, Jake continued. This kind of fraud is serious business. Professional equipment theft is a felony, especially when someone tries to forge ownership documents. Through the office window, I could see her ex sitting in a chair, looking nervous and checking his phone constantly. He looked exactly like I remembered, except more desperate. Thinner, stressed, wearing clothes that had seen better days. Officer Martinez arrived about 10 minutes later. She was professional and thorough, taking statements from Jake and reviewing the documentation. So you're the legitimate owner? Yes. I have all the original purchase receipts, insurance papers, and registration with the manufacturer. And this person doesn't have your permission to sell the equipment? Absolutely not. My wife told me she lent it to him for an event. She never mentioned anything about selling it. Officer Martinez looked at the forged note again. This handwriting, do you recognize it? Yes, it's my wife's. The implications of that statement hung in the air. This wasn't just theft anymore. This was conspiracy, fraud, and forgery. My wife hadn't just made a bad decision to lend out my camera. She had actively participated in a scheme to steal and sell it. We'll need to speak with your wife as well. Can you contact her? I looked at my phone. It was now 8:30 a.m., and I had 3 missed calls from my wife. She'd probably woken up, found me gone, and started panicking. I'll call her. But before I could dial, my phone rang. It was her. Where are you? I woke up and you were gone. I'm at Easy Cash Pawn. Your ex just tried to sell my camera. The silence on the other end lasted so long I thought the call had dropped. What? He's here right now, with the police, trying to explain why he has a forged note in your handwriting saying the camera belongs to him. I don't understand. Officer Martinez wants to speak with you. You need to come down here right now. Another long silence. Is he arrested? The question revealed everything. She wasn't asking if he was okay, or what happened, or expressing shock that he tried to sell my camera. She was asking about his legal status. Like she knew this was a possibility. He's being questioned for attempted theft and fraud. You need to get down here now. I'm coming. She hung up, and I turned back to Officer Martinez. She's on her way. Good. Because based on this note and the circumstances, it looks like we're dealing with more than just one person here. Through the window, I watched her ex put his head in his hands. His phone was buzzing constantly, probably with messages from my wife trying to figure out what went wrong with their plan. 20 minutes later, my wife walked through the door of the pawn shop, and I saw her face when she realized how serious this had become. Police, paperwork, her ex in custody, and me standing there with evidence of her involvement. She looked at me with an expression I'd never seen before. Not guilt, not apology, but something closer to panic. Like someone who'd been caught in something much bigger than she'd expected. Officer Martinez approached her with the forged note. Ma'am, can you explain this document? My wife stared at the note in Officer Martinez's hands like she was seeing it for the first time. But I could see the recognition in her eyes, followed immediately by the realization of how much trouble she was in. I wrote that, but it's not what it looks like. Ma'am, this note claims that the camera belongs to the defendant and that you're vouching for his ownership as his girlfriend. Can you explain that? I'm not his girlfriend. I'm married. She pointed at me weakly. That's my husband. Then why does this note say otherwise? My wife looked between Officer Martinez, her ex in the back office, and me. I could practically see her brain working, trying to figure out which version of the truth would get her in the least trouble. He said he needed some kind of proof that the camera was his to sell it. I thought he was just getting a loan against it or something. Officer Martinez raised an eyebrow. Ma'am, this is a pawn shop. They don't give loans against stolen equipment. This note was intended to help him sell property that doesn't belong to him. I didn't know he was actually selling it, but her voice cracked when she said it. Even she didn't believe her own story. I spoke up. You told me you lent him the camera for an event. You never mentioned anything about him needing to sell it or get money from it, because I didn't think he would actually go through with it. There it was. She just admitted she knew he was planning to sell my camera. Her own words had trapped her. Officer Martinez made a note. So you were aware that he intended to sell the equipment? I thought he was just desperate and talking crazy. People say things when they're stressed. Stressed enough that you wrote him a document falsely claiming ownership. My wife's face was getting redder by the minute. Every answer she gave made things worse for both of them. Can I speak to my husband privately for a minute? Officer Martinez nodded toward a corner of the shop. Make it quick. My wife grabbed my arm and pulled me aside, lowering her voice to a desperate whisper. You have to help me fix this. This is all just a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? You forged a document claiming my camera belongs to your ex-boyfriend. I was trying to help him. He's been struggling financially, and I thought if he could just get a small loan. By stealing from me? It's not stealing if I gave it to him. I stared at her. You can't give away something that doesn't belong to you. That camera is my business equipment. It's how I make money to pay for our house, our car, our life. I know. I made a mistake, but we can fix this. Just tell them it was all a misunderstanding, that you actually did give permission. You want me to lie to the police? I want you to help your wife. The audacity was incredible. She was asking me to commit perjury to cover up her theft and fraud. Like I was supposed to risk my own freedom to protect her from the consequences of stealing from me. I'm not lying to the police. You stole my camera and helped him try to sell it. I didn't steal anything. I borrowed it. Without permission. That's stealing. From my own husband? Yes, from your own husband. Spouses can steal from each other. Marriage isn't a license to take whatever you want. Her face went from desperate to angry. So you're just going to let me get arrested? You're going to get arrested because you committed a crime. This isn't happening to you. This is something you did. Officer Martinez called us back over. We need to continue with the statements. My wife looked defeated, but I could see her mind still working, still trying to find an angle that would get her out of this. Ma'am, I need you to explain the timeline. When did you take the camera from your home? Wednesday morning. My husband was at work. And when did you give it to the defendant? That same day. Did you have your husband's permission? A long pause. No. And when did you write this note claiming he owned the camera? Thursday night. He called me crying, saying he was about to lose his apartment and needed money fast. Officer Martinez looked at me. Sir, were you aware of any financial arrangement between your wife and the defendant? No. She told me she lent him the camera for a photography event. She never mentioned money or selling anything. Ma'am, did you expect to receive any portion of the money from the sale? Another pause. He said he would pay me back for helping him. Pay you back how much? Half of whatever he got. There it was. The full truth. My wife hadn't just impulsively helped an ex-boyfriend. She had planned to profit from selling my equipment. This was premeditated theft with intent to distribute the proceeds. Officer Martinez closed her notebook. Ma'am, I'm placing you under arrest for conspiracy to commit theft and fraud. My wife's face went white. What? You can't arrest me. I'm the victim here. He manipulated me into helping him. You just admitted to taking property without permission and planning to profit from its illegal sale. That makes you a co-conspirator, not a victim. As Officer Martinez began reading my wife her rights, I watched her ex through the office window. He was on his phone, probably calling a lawyer or family member. He looked resigned, like this wasn't his first time dealing with the legal system. But my wife looked shocked, like she genuinely hadn't considered that her actions might have serious consequences. Like she thought being married to me somehow protected her from the law. Can I get my camera back? I asked Jake, after it's processed as evidence. Probably a few days. A few days, which meant I'd miss the wedding, disappoint my clients, and lose money because my wife decided to steal from me. As they led my wife away in handcuffs, she looked at me one more time. Are you going to bail me out? I looked at her standing there, still expecting me to rescue her from the consequences of stealing from me. No. The next 24 hours were a whirlwind of phone calls, paperwork, and revelations that made everything worse. My wife called from jail that Saturday afternoon, using her one phone call not to apologize or explain, but to demand that I post her bail. I can't believe you're leaving me in here. I can't believe you stole my camera and tried to sell it. I told you it wasn't like that. I was helping someone by committing felony theft and fraud. Don't be dramatic. It's just a camera. Just a camera. My $4,000 professional equipment that I needed to make a living was just a camera to her. That camera pays our mortgage. It puts food on our table. It's not just anything. Fine, whatever. Are you going to bail me out or not? No. What do you mean, no? I mean, no. You stole from me. You forged documents. You planned to profit from selling my property. I'm not rewarding that behavior by posting bail. The silence on the other end lasted long enough that I thought she'd hung up. I'm your wife. And you're also a thief. She hung up. Sunday morning, I got a call from her sister asking why I hadn't bailed her out. Apparently, my wife had been working the phones, trying to get family members to pressure me into posting bond. She made a mistake, her sister said. Everyone makes mistakes. Theft and fraud aren't mistakes. They're crimes. She's family. You don't abandon family. She didn't abandon me when she stole from me. The conversation went nowhere. Her family was closing ranks, treating this like some minor marital spat instead of what it actually was, felony theft and conspiracy to commit fraud. Monday morning brought more information from Officer Martinez. During questioning, her ex had provided details about their plan that made my wife's involvement even clearer. According to his statement, your wife approached him about selling the camera. He didn't ask her for it. She offered it to him. She approached him? He claims she contacted him about 3 weeks ago, saying she knew he was having financial troubles and that she had access to expensive equipment that could be sold quickly. 3 weeks ago, this wasn't some spontaneous decision to help an ex-boyfriend. This was a plan she'd been developing for almost a month. Did he say why she wanted to help him? According to him, she said you were too controlling with money and that she wanted to help him get back on his feet. Too controlling with money, because I didn't want my professional equipment stolen and sold without my knowledge. There's more. He provided text messages between them discussing the plan. Your wife was very specific about when you'd be at work, how long she thought they had before you'd notice the camera was missing, and which pawn shops wouldn't ask too many questions. Officer Martinez showed me printouts of the text conversations. Reading them was like discovering I'd been married to a stranger. The camera will get us at least $2,500. Maybe $3,000 if we find the right buyer. Are you sure he won't notice right away? He keeps it in the equipment case. Sometimes he doesn't use it for days. What if he checks the GPS? He never mentioned GPS to me. I don't think he even knows about it. Perfect. This will solve my rent problem and give us a nice bonus. Us. We. Our. She wasn't talking like someone reluctantly helping an ex-boyfriend. She was talking like they were partners in this theft. The worst part was a message from just 2 days before she took the camera. I'm tired of him treating me like I don't matter. Time to show him what it feels like to lose something important. She hadn't stolen my camera to help her ex. She'd stolen it to hurt me. Tuesday morning, I met with a divorce attorney. I brought copies of the police report, the text messages, and documentation of the financial impact of her theft. This is unusual, the lawyer said. Most divorce cases involve disputes over shared assets. But this is criminal activity by one spouse against the other. What does that mean for the divorce? It means you have grounds for fault-based divorce, which can affect property division, alimony, and other financial arrangements. When one spouse commits crimes against the other, courts tend to view that very unfavorably. She's trying to paint this as a misunderstanding. Conspiracy to commit theft and fraud aren't misunderstandings. These are felonies. If she's convicted, it will impact everything from her employment prospects to her ability to get credit or housing. What about my losses? The wedding I had to cancel, the damage to my reputation? You can sue for damages in civil court, separate from the criminal charges. Theft from a spouse is still theft. Wednesday afternoon, my wife finally made bail. Her sister had posted the money, probably hoping this would all blow over once she was out of jail. She came home acting like nothing had happened. I'm glad this whole misunderstanding is over with. It's not over. You're facing felony charges. My lawyer says we can work out a plea deal. Probably just community service and probation. Your lawyer doesn't live with someone who stole from them. Are you ever going to let this go? Let this go? Like I was holding a grudge instead of dealing with the fact that my wife had committed crimes against me. I filed for divorce today. Her face went from annoyed to shocked in about half a second. What? Divorce? You stole from me, planned to profit from it, and showed no remorse. This marriage is over. You can't divorce me over this. It was just a stupid mistake. I can divorce you for criminal activity. And it wasn't a mistake. It was a plan you worked on for 3 weeks. How do you know that? The police showed me your text messages. All of them. For the first time since this whole thing started, she looked genuinely afraid. You can't use those in a divorce. Actually, I can. Criminal activity by one spouse against the other is absolutely grounds for divorce. She sat down heavily on the couch, finally understanding that this wasn't going to just disappear. What do you want from me? Nothing. I want you to face the consequences of what you did, and I want to move on with my life. And if I fight the divorce, then your felony conviction will be part of the public record by the time we get to court. She looked at me like she was seeing me clearly for the first time in years. I never thought you'd actually do this. I never thought you'd steal from me. That night, she packed a bag and went to stay with her sister. Before she left, she tried one more time to get me to work things out. We can go to counseling. We can fix this. You can't counsel your way out of felony theft. So that's it. Years of marriage down the drain over one mistake. One mistake that took 3 weeks to plan and would have succeeded if you hadn't gotten caught. She slammed the door on her way out. I got my camera back from evidence on Thursday. It was undamaged, still had all my memory cards and settings intact. Within a week, I'd rescheduled the missed wedding and started rebuilding my business reputation. My wife's criminal trial was scheduled for 2 months later. The divorce would probably be finalized before then. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe again. 3 months later, the dust had settled and the consequences were exactly what they deserved to be. Her ex-boyfriend took a plea deal, 18 months probation, restitution for my lost work, and community service. His financial problems got worse when the conviction showed up on background checks, making him essentially unemployable in any job requiring trust or handling money. My wife fought the charges initially, claiming she was manipulated and coerced. But when the prosecutor presented those text messages showing her planning every detail, her lawyer advised her to take the plea deal. She ended up with 12 months probation, a felony record, and an order to pay damages for my canceled wedding and equipment downtime. The divorce was finalized 6 weeks ago. Since she'd committed felony theft against me during the marriage, the judge wasn't particularly sympathetic to her requests for alimony or property division. She walked away with her personal belongings and half the debt. I kept the house, my business equipment, and my sanity. Her family stopped speaking to me after I refused to write a character reference letter for her sentencing hearing. Apparently, I was supposed to help minimize her punishment for stealing from me. Her sister actually called me vindictive for not supporting my wife through her difficult time. Like she was going through cancer treatment instead of facing consequences for theft and fraud. The funniest part was her reaction when the judge read the sentence. She looked genuinely shocked that actions had consequences. Like she'd expected everyone to understand that she was just trying to help someone and overlook the fact that she'd planned to steal thousands of dollars from her husband. My business recovered completely. Word got around about what happened, and instead of damaging my reputation, it actually helped. Clients appreciated that I had professional-grade security on my equipment and that I took theft seriously. Several other photographers started asking about GPS tracking for their gear. Last week, I ran into her at the grocery store. She was working as a cashier, probably one of the few jobs she could get with a felony record. When she saw me, she looked like she wanted to disappear. "How are you doing?" she asked, like we were old friends catching up. "Great. Business is booming. Just bought a second camera body with upgraded security features." "That's good." She seemed like she wanted to say something else, maybe apologize or explain or ask for forgiveness. But what was there to say? She'd stolen from me, planned to profit from it, and only showed remorse when she got caught. "I heard you got remarried," she said finally. "Engaged. We're planning a destination wedding next spring." "That's nice." My fiancé is a family law attorney who specializes in domestic financial crimes. When I told her about the camera theft during one of our early dates, her reaction was immediate. "That's not marital discord. That's criminal conspiracy." It's amazing how different life feels when you're with someone who respects your property, your work, and your boundaries. As I walked away from my ex-wife in that grocery store, I realized I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, no regret. Just relief that I'd had the sense to let the consequences play out instead of trying to protect someone from their own choices. She'd texted me a few times over the months, asking if we could talk things through or find closure. I never responded. There was nothing to talk through. She'd shown me exactly who she was when she thought she wouldn't get caught. The GPS tracking on my new camera is even more sophisticated now. But honestly, I don't think I'll need it. When you're with someone trustworthy, you don't have to worry about them stealing your livelihood while you're at work. My ex-wife learned that theft has consequences. Her ex-boyfriend learned that get-rich-quick schemes usually backfire. And I learned that sometimes the best thing you can do for someone is absolutely nothing. Some people need to face the full weight of their choices to understand that actions matter. My ex-wife got exactly what she planned for, just not in the way she expected. And I got my camera back.